Well, because we see in Daniel's time, which is an example for us in these last days, that various instruments of meat and wine and all this, the best diet, as it were, of the world, the best diet of Babylon was offered to him, but he chose not to. He chose to reject. He knew that it was various items of food that would cause inflammation, foods that would cause cancer, foods that will cause various heart diseases that God's word said we should stay away from, and he chose to basically not follow it. It says this in Daniel 1 and verse number 5. Daniel 1 and verse 5, it says, and the king appointed them, talking about the children of Israel, of a daily portion of the king's meat and the wine which he drank. We don't got time to deal with that. So nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. So here, a part of that schooling process, the king appointed, as he thought, the best Babylonian diet, the standard Babylonian diet of the day for the Babylonians, and even for these Hebrews, young Hebrew youth. He says, this is a part of your learning. You're going to eat this best diet that's going to give you a clear mind to stand before the king. But notice in verse number 8, brothers and sisters, notice in verse number 8, what Daniel purposed in his heart. It says this in verse 8, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not be defiled, he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So he said, he purposed in his heart that he would not partake of that flesh meat. Why? Because he understands the principles we just looked at of the fat, of the inflammation, of the heart diseases that it will bring. And also not even wine. We don't got time to deal with wine. The Bible says wine is a mocker. Strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Is not wise. We'll leave that alone for another topic. But let's notice here what he requested in verse number 12. And even we're going to see that these foods that he requested for in verse number 12 is also vital that we have in our diet. It's vital foods that also help fight off inflammation, help fight off all the various different diseases as we follow not only God's dietary laws, but also his whole 8 health laws, and basically produce an environment of health that sickness would not come upon us, that even sickness, as we follow these principles, would flee from the midst of us by God's grace. It says this in verse number 12, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Pulse to eat and water to drink. He asked for pulse to eat and clear water, not wine that clouds the mind, not wine that makes you do foolish things and basically kills the liver, but water, pure water for the body. Now you may say, what is pulse? What is pulse? But simply, brothers and sisters, pulse is basically foods from the garden. Foods from the garden. Seed foods that's basically planted in the garden. Even before I look at some of these foods or talk about some of these foods, it's interesting that the word pulse, which we usually think of when you say pulse, usually someone checks someone's pulse to see how much vitality they have left basically in them, to see, what manner of life is basically left in them. You check the person's pulse, see how strong or weak it is. It shows the vitality of life that's left in you. And even when you look at this understanding of pulse, and it's how it's connected even with garden foods in the garden, foods that are basically planted by seeds in the garden. These various foods help strengthen the life, helps maintain the vigor of life, strengthen, as it were, the pulse. Oh, brothers and sisters, that's a side note right there. But as we look at this understanding of pulse, you say, pulse, foods like what? Foods like lentils, foods like chickpeas and split peas and green peas was largely a part of Daniel's diet. He knew and understood that these foods, lentils, chickpeas, split peas, and all the various other type of peas, along with some other things we're going to talk about, will help strengthen him, will give him the best health that will basically keep his mind clear And not only that, but it would take any inflammation and poisons and disease out of the body. When you think about these pulse foods, these lentils, chickpeas, split peas, green peas, they have concentrated proteins. They are high protein, but basically it's concentrated. It's not like your regular legumes, like your regular beans, who has a lot of protein. But this is, these chickpeas, split peas, they are superfoods with concentrated protein. Some people cannot eat certain beans without, getting gas and stuff like that, and it's harder for the body to break down. But the chickpeas and split peas and all these various peas are it gives you adequate and the protein that you need, and it's also easier to digest. Not only that, it has higher fiber than regular beans, which fiber is very essential to our diet, because after we eat and these high fiber foods, and it goes through the whole digestion tract, and it passes out. It gives off all of its nutrients, everything that's in it, but the fiber has no nutritional value to the body. But as it passes through the body, after it's emptied out from all its nutrients, the body can now inject all the poisons, bacteria, the various different diseases that's in the body into it, and it can pass out to the stool. So fiber is vital for our diet. And these foods, these peas, are high in fiber, even higher than regular legumes or beans and stuff like that, and concentrated protein, brothers and sisters. And this is very, very was essential in Daniel, knew this.